I found something interesting. You can see here H key user S1520 classes. This is the classes sub key for the network service account. The S1520 SID is the SID of the network service account, and this is the user key from that user account. So first, this process tried to access this key, and it successfully accessed it. But after accessing the subkey, it tried to access another subkey inside the previous one, and it's not found. So it's not found, so the process continued with activity, and later it tried to access the same subkey as before, but in another different key. In this case, the key is H key classes root. So it tried to access the key in that, the subkey in that key, and it find it. And then after finding it, it will use read the values, start to use these values. So I found that this was probably an issue, because the subkey under H key user, this subkey can be manipulated by the user that the subkey belongs to. You can see there network service has full control over the subkey. But the key name H key classes root can only be modified by administrators and system account, and cannot be modified by other users. So there is probably an issue here, because users can modify the user's subkey, and this subkey will be read by a privileged process. So this could be an exploitable issue. So I continue looking at the different values from the registry key that were being read. Windows problems. Okay. As you can see, Windows Media Player sometimes has some problems. Yeah. Okay, we'll continue with this. So there was the problem here was that we have two different keys, one controlled by administrators and one controlled by users. And these two different keys are accessed by a privileged process and try to read value from them. So I thought, what about if I create those values that are not present there? Maybe the process will read the values I create and use them, and maybe I can elevate privileges and modify the actions or do something. So I started to make some tests, creating the values that were not existing on the network service user subkey. So I created the value, started to change some options, and I couldn't get anything working at the first try. But then I found an interesting value called app ID flags. So I went to look for the value description on MSDN. I found it, and I said that it controls the behavior, the security behavior of COM servers. So I say, okay, and the value that was being used was number 2, that was secure COM server. So okay, I say maybe this value is used to secure the process. So let's try to set the value to 0. So I did that, create the value, set it to 0, run the test program, and I got the Windows management instrumentation process running without protection. So finally, I can find what was the Microsoft protection, was adding a new value to the registry to get the process protected. And because the issue of this service running under system account accessing 2 different keys and one user controllable, so I could set my own values and have the Windows management instrumentation process running without protections. And exploiting it will be easy because I already have the exploit that I did for my previous research. So the only change I have to do to the exploit was creating a registry value. The former exploit was churrasco. This is churrasquito, which is a small churrasco. The only modification I had to do was just create the registry subkey and values. You can see here. So I create the subkey. Here you can see S1, 5 classes, app ID, and then set the app ID flags value to 0. So when I set this value to 0, then I call Windows Management Instrumentation functionality, get the process running unprotected, access the process, and get the system token from there and elevate privileges. This exploit is, like I said, almost the same as before and works on Internet Information Service 6. By default, it runs under the network service account. So you only need to upload a command shell or an ASP.NET exploit and run it, and you can compromise the Internet Information Server 6. So sadly, I don't know, let me show. Let me show the exploit video. It's pretty simple. It's almost this. No. So I run netcat locally. So I already uploaded a command shell. This is IIS 6. So I can run any command there. And you can see that by default, it runs under the network service account. This is Windows 2003, fully patched, and IIS is, this application is running on the network service account. So I run churrasquito, set the remote IP and port number, and I get the remote shell running under the system account. Like I said, it's almost the same exploit churrasco with a little modification, just creating a registry value, and that's it to bypass the fix that Microsoft introduces for my previous research. So we should be ending. So the threat scenarios basically are web hosting companies where they allow you to upload your stuff and you can run web applications, so you can compromise them for $5 or $4.99. In-company developers can also upload code for testing, production. They are not administrators, but they can upload code, so they could also compromise servers. SQL Server administrators which are not Windows administration, they can also run programs, and SQL Server account can impersonate, so they can also compromise the server. And finally, like we already saw, on process protection scenarios, some of these issues will allow you to bypass the protection. Because first, you can exploit some service, and you will be kind of trapped there because you don't have enough privileges, and you cannot access other processes. By exploiting the issue, you will be able to elevate to system and escape from the protections. So about fixes, Microsoft will be fixing the registry key issue and another local elevation of privileges that I didn't speak about today, because any user can elevate privileges on Windows 2008, Vista and 7. Also, Microsoft is releasing an advisory stating the issues related with impersonation with the network service and local service account. So final conclusion is that Microsoft has improved a lot, but some protection can be easily bypassed sometimes with simple issues like the one I showed. Like you saw, finding these issues are not difficult, just making click around using public available tools. You just need to where to look and observe and find the issues. So we are out of time. Thank you for coming. We have questions in the question and answer room if you want.